welcome everyone. Welcome to our channel. Also, Happy New Year. This is going to be the first film for 2026. This month happened to be my pick, and I picked The Princess Bride by William Goldman. What was interesting is that I actually was introduced to The Princess Bride first by the film by the late Rob Reiner. So that was my first awareness of The Princess Bride. I didn't think I figured out that Princess Bride was actually a novel until like high school, college years. But I never really had an inkling to want to read it until recently. So I felt like, let me try reading the book, which was interesting because usually I would like to read the book before the film, but due to when the film came out and when I decided to read it, it was a flip-flop of events. But overall, I was pretty much excited for it. And then I did, one thing about watching the movie, knowing the film, the characters before reading, is that I actually pictured the original actors from the film, which was fun because it felt like an extended story from the film. Did you have awareness of the book? Did you like the movie? Did you even know there was a movie? What was your...
Growing up, the movie was always on TV. So I watched bits and pieces, and I learned after reading the book that I never saw the movie straight through. Mm-hmm. So I only remembered one or two scenes that I probably saw 30 times during my childhood. And I didn't remember that much about the movie, and I didn't know it was about a book, but I was excited to see what the book would be like.
So you're admitting that you're excited to read one of my books?
Yes. And I have been exposed to William Goldman because he wrote a book on screenwriting, and he also wrote the screenplay for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, for Stephen King's Misery adaptation, I think for Heat, the movie Heat, directed by Michael Bay. But I didn't realize that he wasn't known for his novel writing. So I think even he realized from reading the anniversary introductions and things like that at the beginning of this copy, it kind of makes it sound like he wrote the novels with the intent of trying to turn them into movies and convert them to screenplays. Mm. Or as it was just like a vehicle for him to get where he wanted to be as a writer. And I enjoyed it. I only really remembered the actor that played Vizzini, Andre the Giant, and Mandy Patinkin, obviously, and the actor who played Westley. I don't remember Buttercup, what she looked like or who that actress was.
Robin Wright?
What?
Robin Wright?
Yeah.
I mean, she was in the film not a lot, so I can see why. Very minimal. Buttercup. It wasn't towards the end. She kind of had... Oh. Not a big presence as the other characters.
Because in the book, there's a lot about her.
Yeah.
And the way that the book is structured is that you meet the characters and then you eventually get their backstories. So you get Inigo Montoya's backstory, and you get Fezzik's backstory. You get Wesley's backstory.
Yeah.
And you get Vizzini's. I don't know if you get Vizzini's backstory. It's very short.
It's very short. Like you mainly get the main core group, which was, as you mentioned, Wesley and those guys, and then you get the Count's backstory, and then you get the princes. So like those were like the main focus.
Yeah. But what I liked about the book compared to the movie, because we did watch the movie after finishing the book, starting from the beginning, is that the backgrounds for the characters, there are only a couple lines for each character in the movie. But in the book, they're very fun and very fleshed out. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of themes, the style of gags and jokes carried over from the book to the movie as a whole.
Yeah.
But I noticed that like there were some things that there's a focus on the writing style for the actual story, because the overarching story is that William Goldman remembers his father telling him this story when he's a kid and he has pneumonia. And when he gets older and he wants to share this story with his own son, mm-hmm. who's a similar age of when he first heard the story, he ends up realizing that his father skipped a lot of parts. He kind of abridged it the way he wanted to as he was telling the story mm-hmm. to his son from this book. So he wants to find the original book. And when he finds the original book manuscript, he realizes that it is insanely long. He is kind of bored by a lot of it.
It was more historical text than it was a fun action adventure.
Right. And he kind of felt like his dad's version was better than the original, at least for sharing it. So, because in the original version, there's a lot of history. It's like a history book, or he goes on way too long describing things. Mm-hmm. So the story, there's a lot of injection of William Goldman as a fictional version of himself, kind of like giving his thoughts, saying, "Oh, I cut this out because it's not. It was X or Y.
This is what happened. Here's A, B, C, D. Now let's go back to the main story."
So you see, like, the fictional writing style of Morgenstern, who is the author of the original story, and you hear the thoughts. You also get the writing style of William Goldman's fictional version of himself. And that leads to some really funny jokes or themes where, like, everything is about numbers. Mm-hmm. So everything is ranked. So Princess Buttercup rises from like the 500th most beautiful woman in the world to the 20th, and then to the 5th, and then eventually to the 1st. And it kind of shows the ebb and flow and the roller coaster ride that other women in that ranking, kind of how they fall and gain. And that was kind of funny.
Well, yeah, he interjects certain items that we know, like, currently, like, present to the past, because he kind of messes with the timeline. Like, sometimes I even forgot, like, are we in medieval times? Only because, again, I was influenced by the book, the film. But I think overall, I like the book. How did you feel about him, like, interjecting the present and past?
I didn't mind it. I actually thought I think it seemed like his intention for the story was, as just a fictional fantasy story, it's not interesting enough to him. He wanted to write it in a way that was a little more unique. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the way he decided to do it. And I think it does add a lot. It was kind of fun. I do think that for some people, it may risk pulling them out of the story if they're only interested in the story, the fantasy story,
that's
romance,
where I fell.
But not the outside story of him trying to, like, live his life and do this abridgment. What bothered me and made it tough for me is that you don't know what's real and what isn't. So I think it's the disingenuousness of it, the fact that, like, he did adapt a screenplay for one of Stephen King's novels, Misery, a big one. But in the book, there's an entire scene where he talks about visiting Stephen King, who in this fictitious environment also grew up in this made-up town of Florin, and also needs to make sure that the abridgment is done perfectly.
Yeah, that was during Buttercup's baby.
Yeah.
And Stephen King was like, "Yeah, you need to write it."
There was a whole scene. Mm-hmm. So that kind of annoyed me, wondering what was true, what wasn't, because some of it was very true, but overall it was not. Generally the facts are true. Like, he did have a relationship with Stephen King. I think he lived in New York City and Chicago, and there are real things that he did. But I personally, I like to know, like, is this whole thing fake? And then after, if I want to look and say, oh, did he actually know Stephen King? Oh yeah, look, he did this and this. But instead it's this 50-50. This part is true. This little part is true, but this little part is false. They all seem like they could be true.
Well, it seems like he was playing on the thought of, like, this is his nonfiction work, but it's of a fictional town. True. And his fictional life. So I think he was playing with fiction between, like, nonfiction and fiction, which was, like, it was fun, entertaining, but I was there for the romance adventure of Buttercup and Westley. I'm not afraid to admit it. So that kind of, like, I didn't like getting pulled out of the story because I was so invested in these characters. And I think overall, like, I did enjoy it.
How many Kisas do you want to give it?
I'm going to give it 4.5. Only I give it the half points because I didn't quite care for William Goldman's take on his fictional life. I was there for the adventures.
Wow. I'll give it a 3.5.
Wow.
I think the story was kind of silly. The characters were really good. The jokes were funny. But it was just like a silly, dumb story to me. And the writing style where there's a little too much personality in the prose and the narration, it leads to some unsavory things that don't stand up to the test of time, I think. And also, I think there is something lost between the book and the movie. But I think because the acting is great, you're better off just watching the movie or remembering the movie. If you're a diehard Princess Bride fan, yes, read the book because you're going to get more backstory. You're going to get more history. It's a fun, goofy story that I think is better for the screen in this case. I think it was something that William Goldman wrote knowing that he wanted to make a movie. And so, yeah, it was the cat and mouse game that Westley plays. He has to outwit an enemy. He has to outduel an enemy. He has to do all these things, different things to vanquish his foes. But it's very structured and it's very much, there's a lot of silly Deus Ex Machina involved too.
I mean, I guess also like for the times too, like for Buttercup, while she has a strong presence in the book and in the film, she's often portrayed as being kind of dim-witted. And she has like, other than loving Westley, I feel like she really had no other agency to herself or what she wanted to do. So that was like my one complaint. I was like, why can't Buttercup be stronger, in my opinion, unless she felt differently?
No, I agree. They made her the very disloyal one where she kind of dips and dives and feels very strong emotions, romantic emotions, and then sometimes is extremely cold. And then there's a lot of negotiating among the characters too in the story where Princess Buttercup will be like, yeah, I'll marry you because I want what comes with being a princess, sure, but I'll never love you. And the Prince Humperdinck is like, okay, cool, that works for me. And then obviously it doesn't work out, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, overall liked it.
Wow. Well, I'll take it. So we drop our video the first Sunday of every month. So please don't subscribe to our video to see what we have next for next month. Otherwise, have a good new year and we'll see you at the next one. Bye,
Happy
guys.
New Year. Happy New Year. And yeah, we look forward to making some more videos, reading some interesting books.
Into the new year.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking along for the ride.
Thanks for watching.